Hi everyone, welcome to the Femme podcast. I'm your host, McClain, an assistant project manager with GBA Builders. Femme podcast is a series designated to showcase both men and women in the AEC industry overcoming obstacles. This podcast talks about both the struggles and what advocates can do to help. And I'm really excited for the episode today because we have our first male in Femme history, Patrick Hildebrandt, here with us today. So a special welcome to you, and also welcome to Brenna and Acord-Morris. Thank you guys for being here. Today we're going to talk about topics like advocacy, inclusion, and how we express emotions differently in our industry. So if you guys could each give a brief introduction on yourselves.
Yeah, so I'm Brenna Acord-Morris. I am in the GBA Life Sciences Project Management Group. I have been at GBA for about 2 years now. Started off as a mechanical engineer and made the transition not too long ago. And excited to be here, so thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm Patrick Hildebrandt. I am a senior project manager in our Life Sciences group. I've been at GBA for over 12 years, so I'm getting old, getting gray.
Not yet.
Yeah. Excited to be making some history today. Number first male on the podcast. So
There's going to be a plaque for you after.
I love that.
So advocacy is something that deeply influences our industry, and I thought a lot about your relationship and how advocacy is an integral part of that relationship at GBA. And so, Patrick, what do you think has influenced your approach to mentoring and advocacy?
Yeah, I think for me, it was probably some of just my experience at GBA. When I was a young engineer, I was a mechanical engineer before I kind of became a project manager, but my supervisor was a huge advocate for me and did it in ways that helped me truly give me confidence, truly helped me progress in my career. So, I kind of took that experience and kind of play it forward or pass it on as well, because I saw what it did for me and in my career. And I think, rising tides raise all ships, so to speak. So that's how it kind of became important to me, to just when I have people that I see have a drive and want to be successful and put in the time, I want to help them in their journey as well. And I think that's kind of where I got it from. So.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool. I feel like you hear it go either way, where you had really great leadership when you were being brought up and then you want to pass that down, or you had to really struggle and then you want to pass that kind of burden down. So I think it's really awesome that you have that mindset that you want to also support people under you the way that your leaders supported you.
Yeah, for sure.
So Patrick, could you give us some insight on how you advocated for Brenna at GBA?
Yeah, for sure. So, it kind of started, Brenna and I had a project coming up that was fairly large for us and needed some support, and to be my assistant project manager. So, kind of when I was just going through thinking about who that could be, I had heard a lot about Brenna and what she had done in her time with the company up until that point. So just reached out to her and asked her if she was interested in it. Crazy enough, I think Brenna had always kind of wanted that role. So she obviously accepted, and we started working together on our project, and she just started to kind of thrive in the role. So I think for me, it's what I've been helping her in is kind of, she's younger in her career with that, and it's little things like, I talked about how I had advocacy growing up in the industry, but just kind of giving her confidence in spaces where to kind of validate her spot on the team, her role in front of people. I think that's a big thing for someone young. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man in the industry, just giving somebody a nod. So my example is, early on in the project, we were obviously going through a lot of kickoffs with multiple people. There's a lot of entities involved in this project, and Brenna would always introduce herself as, I'm on Patrick's team, or, I'm helping out Patrick. And I think after a little bit, I was like, just introduce yourself for who you are.
Yeah.
And, say you're the assistant project manager on the project.
Yeah.
And I think all she needed was me to kind of be like, it's okay to do that. You are in this role. So I think just little things like that along the way. I have a bunch of other examples, but things like that, kind of what done for us.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Like, kind of what he said, like, obviously this role was completely new to me. I had never done it before. I'd never really been in the even realm of project management because I'd always been a mechanical engineer, more on the design side. And I was kind of playing both roles on this project that kind of we're talking about. I was the mechanical engineer, kind of right-hand person to the lead mechanical, and then I was kind of Patrick's right-hand person as well on the project management side, which was a really cool role for me. But, to Patrick's point, I remember sitting in that meeting and, saying, I'm helping Patrick out. And after that meeting, he was like, you need to state what you are, like he said. And, I think that just instilled a ton of confidence in me. And I think the biggest thing that I struggled with was, sitting in those rooms. It would be about 10 people usually, whether it was online or in person. And for the most part, I was the only woman, which comes with its own kind of, I don't want to say baggage, but it comes with its own kind of intimidating feelings, because I think as a woman, we always feel like we have to prove ourselves, or, we already don't feel comfortable. So for him to, say that to me and kind of call me out on it, like, I appreciate that so much. Because I'm also someone who, learns by, getting that kind of feedback.
Right.
And so to his point too, is not only was I the only woman, but I was always the youngest one in the room. And so, that confidence not only built, the side of, oh my God, I'm the only woman. I have all these, stereotypes on me already, but then I'm also the youngest and I have those stereotypes as well. So it was really an intimidating, start to the project. But I think, we're over a year in now, and, because he kind of said that initial thing of state you're the assistant project manager, you deserve to be in this room. And not only does he do that, but he also asked for my input in meetings too, just to make sure I'm included in the conversation. I think that, that creates an environment in those meetings where we're starting to normalize, hey, we don't have to point out that, Brenda's the only woman, Brenda's the youngest in the room. I think that you do a great job of, making sure everyone's opinion is heard, because everybody brings something different to the table because of who they are, because of where they come from, their age, so on and so forth. And so I really appreciate kind of how you're starting the movement of the industry of, moving us to a more, it's normal to have women in the room. It's normal to have younger engineers in the room, which, I think is just awesome.
Yeah. I really think that your example is cool, because I don't think people realize how easy it is to advocate for the younger generations, the women in the room. It's as simple as just state your name and your title, or asking her opinion. I had a similar experience with Chris Rasmussen in GBA, where we were in a meeting and he'd say, McClain, what do you think about that? After each topic. And it gave me a space to talk. And it's that simple. And it made a huge difference, something I still remember and think about, and how impactful it was to my integration in that project. Whereas before I was kind of a fly on the wall, here at the meeting I'm learning, but now I'm actually a part of the conversation, and you learn so much more through that process.
Yeah, I think you to me, it's the confidence a part of it, right? It's if you instill that confidence in people, like they have it, like maybe internal, or like when they're kind of by themselves doing their work. But I think it just allows people to actually contribute, and all, like you said, it's simple stuff. And I just think back to a couple times, when I was a younger mechanical, but playing a role on a project, and Kevin Robb would just be like, Patrick, what do you have to say about that? Like, you thought this through, you're the one doing this. Just knowing that he had my back made me be able to perform, the way that he expected, or that, the job required. And so it's the small stuff like that that allows, now I think, Brenna, you would say this, like, you're able to work and perform with a freedom, so to speak, that allows you to do the things that we need you to do on the project. And I think that could be, like you said, so simple, could help everybody out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is important to kind of also mention that I don't want this to get misconstrued for like, oh, like me coming into these rooms, like I need a man to advocate for me because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Like that is not it at all, because, you know, there's so many things that I don't know, not because I'm a woman, but just because I'm young. And we touched on that. But I think it's also, you know, really important to also point out that, you know, you as, you know, a man in those rooms, you know, people tend to, you know, sometimes listen to you more, just because, you know, we always have that chip on our shoulder and we feel like we have to prove ourselves. And so just using your platform and your position to, you know, open that door is just like, I think it's awesome and definitely something that I've really appreciated about, you know, our working relationship. And it's helped a lot.
So thank you guys for being so open to share your mentoring relationship. I think being in supportive relationships is so important in this industry, but it's also really important to consider how to obtain an inclusive environment. And Brenna, we talked a little bit previously about how there's corporate groups sometimes that can actually create an unintended divide among genders or backgrounds of different sorts. So what are your thoughts on fostering a true inclusive environment?
Yeah, so, you know, I think we as women, for so long now, you've heard the conversation of, you know, we just want a seat at the table. And kind of what, you know, the conversation we just had was, okay, we have the seat at the table now, what do we do with it? You know, where do we go from here? So I think, you know, our generation kind of has the awesome opportunity that we kind of get to turn the page now. Like, you know, the women in this industry who've come before us have gotten us that seat, so let's do something with it. And I think, you know, sometimes we kind of get stuck in a rut of, you know, we want to be included, and, you know, sometimes I don't think that we realize that we're excluding by doing that. So, you know, obviously any sort of corporate group that is woman-based and for women is awesome, because it creates a safe space, you know, for us to chat about some road bumps that we have in our day-to-day lives at work and in the industry in general. But I do think it's worth noting that, you know, are we maybe doing ourselves a disservice by excluding men from some of those conversations? Because to be real, they still make up like a good portion of this industry, probably like it's safe to say 70%, 60-70%. So I don't know, you know, how we get around that except for including the men in some of these conversations like we are today. Like, because I know Patrick is an incredible, you know, advocate and ally to all the kind of things that we're talking about here. And it's only helped, you know, talking about it with him, some of the problems that I have day to day. So I really hope that, you know, we kind of, in our page turning process, we kind of remember to include the men on these conversations, because, you know, it's only going to help the industry continue to push, you know, women in leadership positions, you know, all that forward. And I'm really excited to kind of see where that goes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'll just share a story about, so I just went to an event, a Women in Pharma event last week, and it was like, it was at a pitch and putt place. It was called Sip and Swing, I think. But it was interesting to me showing up to that, and it's titled, it's a Women in Pharma event, and it was me and our Director of Business Development, Matthew Gorton, and like there was probably, you know, 9-10 women and like 3 or 4 of us men, and it was kind of interesting to be on the other side of it, in the minority of it, but like it felt so welcoming, I guess, too. Like it didn't feel like, oh, the guys are here intruding upon our event. Right. It was like they were excited we were there. So I think sharing that story of like how it, I think it is getting better to the point, but we just got to keep that momentum.
Did you feel any like nerves walking up to it?
100%.
Like a group full of women where you're like, oh God, because that's probably like kind of
that's what we feel.
Right. Yeah. So no, I think that's why I think I wanted to share it a little bit there. Yeah. For a little bit walking into it, it's like, what's the vibe gonna be on this? Right. I mean, I love golf. I love playing golf. So like to me, that's an atmosphere that's comfortable for me. Yeah. So like walking up to it, it's like, how's this gonna go? But like once we got there, it was just normal with that. So I don't know, kind of think a good example from the other side to share. So
I think like it's something also that like we probably become more desensitized to as we're in the industry. Because like I remember in college, like walking into engineering classes and it being like a room full of men, and like I was also like a college like overcoming some insecurities like already like in that college environment, and then like walking into a room full of men was so intimidating, where like now I'm definitely more comfortable than I used to be in that scenario. So I think like as we come up in the industry, maybe we'll experience even more of a comfort.
Yeah, and I really like that story because I think it provides you kind of a very quick little insight into what we do kind of on a day-to-day basis. You know, because it does kind of make you a little bit uncomfortable the first couple times that you're the, you know, one of one or one of a few. And so I also think that hopefully allows you to like empathize a little bit more with us, kind of like our stories, where we're coming from. And I think that's the point I was making, like including the men in these conversations. That's a perfect example of, you know, you being one of a few at an event. Now you can kind of understand and we can move forward and kind of continue to normalize it and you know, hopefully push the industry into normalizing men, women, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about that, it was, you know, kind of to your point about being inclusive of it, is we were invited, like we were asked to be there, and like people, like, oh, are you going to show up? Like it'd be so much fun. You know what? It was welcoming in that aspect of it. So I thought that was awesome.
I think that's something we can do better as an industry, is be more welcoming. Because like I went to a women's conference just like a couple weeks ago, and like there were only 2 or 3 men out of like 100 women, and part of me was like, and like they like had to do the call out, like shout out to our men that are here, and like, but I wonder how many men actually got invited to that event. And not that like everyone wasn't invited, but like how many companies reached out to men, or how many just reached out to the women at that company specifically. And those events do cost money, and so like you want to focus them towards like the group, but I do think as an industry we can be more inclusive by inviting men to like more of the women corporate groups, or the conferences or golf tournaments, whatever it is.
And I think on the flip side of it then too, like just for, I'll just call it traditional events that maybe aren't targeted one way or another, with that is, you know, making sure we are mindful and we are a male dominated industry, but not falling into the norms of it for some of these events. So like kind of my example with it is like we just recently organized a golf tournament this summer where, you know, it's not like women are excluded with it, but you know, traditionally there's a lot of men that go to those events. And this year, like, you know, working with Brenna plays golf. There's a few other people in our group that play golf, and we kind of assembled an all women team. It was the only one at the tournament. Not that there was women on other teams and all that, but you know, I think for you guys, the feedback off we got from that was how awesome you guys thought that was. And you know, we talk about comfort at events and stuff like that. Kind of, you guys were involved in the event, you know, able to attend and all that, but also probably made you feel a little more comfortable having more of your peers with you, and just made it a lot of fun. But you know, those events a lot of times, like golf tournaments or whatever, are such huge networking opportunities for people, and that's how you build relationships. And I think trying to be more inclusive of that part of it just kind of compounds itself, right? Like there's so many people we work with, whether it's vendors or owners or whatever, that are there, and it's it's a laid back atmosphere, provides you guys that platform to kind of experience that and network with people. So I think from, I guess, the male side point of view is making sure we open up our minds to providing that for, you know, women in the industry.
Yeah. That reminds me, we had Barb Allen come. I don't know. I know you were there.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I don't know if you were there, but calling you out.
Yeah. Damn.
-1.
We had Barb Allen, and you have to listen to her. She has a podcast. She comes and speaks. She's really awesome. She used to be a superintendent.
Yeah.
I don't want to like butcher her background, but she had everyone in the room stand up, and then she was like, sit down if you like to golf, or sorry, sit down if you don't like to golf, sit down if you don't like to hunt. And it was like all these like events that we did, and then it was like only like the men standing in the room at the end, and like she's like, these are like the main events that we do, like why don't we do more events that everyone likes? And so I thought that was kind of interesting. Just like showcase that like there were only men standing, and like women can learn how to golf. I've like recently tried to like learn how to golf, and I also want to do things that like my male peers enjoy doing. But I think it'd also be cool to have them do some stuff that like I really enjoy doing, and see if maybe they like it. Maybe they find a new hobby. So
yeah. But I think the golf thing was a big thing, just because even today at any golf tournament you go to, and I've been to quite a few now, it's the same story. Like, I'm one of one or one of a few. So shout out to Michelle, Taylor, and Sam, because we golfed really well that day. So the girls team did very well, and definitely held our own, and it it made us comfortable. It was fun, and I definitely hope that we see more women out there kind of as the years go on.
Do you remember when we went golfing that one time and like I actually hit it and it just like went far? Like I don't even know where. Like, I went far. We were all like cheering.
I don't think I've ever screamed so loud on a golf course.
We were like on the ground like cheering, and then we got to like the end of the thing, and there was like this group of women, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, did you get a hole in one?" And I was like,
"No, she just hit it really well." Yeah,
I don't even know if it was like on the green. I don't know if it was in the woods, but like, it went far.
I think that's also something to point out is like, because we're in that situation, we as women, aren't always comfortable with golf. Like just being able to do it with other people who are in the same boat and celebrating the little wins, I think is also just so much fun.
Yeah, it was. It was super fun.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be a golf pro in no time.
Heck yeah.
So as we explore different aspects of workplace relationships, I think that emotions play a huge role in kind of our different dynamics and relationships at GBA and other A&E firms. And so, Brenna, how do you see emotions playing a role in the workplace, and what do you think are some important aspects, I guess, of emotions?
Yeah, so, kind of how we touched on at the very beginning, we talked a lot about confidence, right? And I think, I've been told a lot, and I definitely feel a lot like I come off as like 100% confident in everything that I do. But I think, I feel like one of those ducks that's sitting on water that's totally calm on top of them. My feet are just going like crazy underneath me because, I'm always having a feeling that I have to constantly prove myself. And I think I attribute a lot of that to just being a woman in the industry. Because, we've talked so much about being one of a few and whatnot, having to, trying to blend in but also stand out at the same time. And kind of like having to balance that is a lot. And I think that we also, feel like we have to prove ourselves a lot. And so there's been so many times also where we've been downplayed or, kind of seen as, I've been mistaken for a receptionist sometimes. And that really leaves a chip on my shoulder of like, no, like I'm an engineer, like I belong here and this is my job. And I think that a lot of women in this industry feel that way. Like we have that chip on our shoulder. And I think that, that can maybe be seen as a negative thing, but I really also try to remember it and spin it in a positive light that, it also could be seen as like a superpower of ours that we have this chip on our shoulder, because on a lot of, my projects that I work on, I feel like it gives me that extra sense of care for my projects because, I'm so eager to make sure that they're near perfect, and because it reflects me. All my work reflects me, and I think that, having that chip on my shoulder, kind of being doubted has made me put in 110% effort into every, single task that I do. Because I want the projects that we do to, have that care and attention that, they deserve. So our client, gets the best product that we can, give them. So I think that, we talk about emotions, and I definitely think that, that's one that is a huge benefit that can come from women in this industry. I definitely think that as women, we're also told that maybe we show too much emotion, or not enough emotion. It's always such a fine and delicate topic. I feel like
impossible balance.
And it's like you're like,
which one are you?
Yeah, you're
never
too far one way or too far the other way. But I think that maybe viewing normally seen as negative emotions like I just talked about and kind of spinning it in a positive light or using that energy more in a positive way, like with the care of projects, I think, we could do a better job of as women as a whole and kind of, moving forward. I think that emotions are good.
Yeah.
So
I think it's interesting that you bring that up too, because it's like there's certain emotions that are seen as strong and then certain emotions that are seen as weak. Like, you always hear like people like lashing out on a job site, like really angry, and that's like a strong emotion. Where if you were so passionate about something that you started crying in a meeting, that's a weak emotion.
Yeah.
And it's predominantly male, how they express their emotion is predominantly like a stronger view, whereas like how women typically, like maybe we're more likely, not all women, but maybe like overall women are more likely to cry versus to throw something.
Yeah.
And then that's seen as like a weaker thing.
Yeah.
And then that like is kind of a snowball effect on like your perception, people's perception of you in the industry.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting.
I completely agree, because the project that we were talking about, kind of how we got started on this APM role and project management route, I will absolutely admit that I have cried because of that project. But honestly, it was because I was so passionate about my role on it, the work that we were doing on it, and wanting to make sure that, we were, creating the best, drawing package, best building. Like, it's just because I like care so much about it that, yeah, to your point, that's just how that emotion comes out. And for other people, it comes out differently. And I hope that we've talked about this a lot, like crying, honestly, like that's an okay emotion to have, because it's not always negative, it's not always weak, it's not always bad. It can be a really, it's just a different way of expressing something, and I think that that's definitely okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, emotions are such a interesting topic. I think, emotion, like when you think about it from like a PM's perspective, just, for whatever, like a lot of times you almost have to be that calming aspect for your team. Like when things are hot, things are stressful, so you got to kind of be able to almost like handle your emotions one way or another. But I mean, I think from maybe the male side of it is, you're kind of taught growing up like to kind of hide, mask your emotions, and anger I think might be one of the ones that's acceptable for one reason or another. But I'm a passionate person. I'm an emotional person. Not everybody wears their emotions on their sleeve with that, but I think I don't know, I'm trying to think of like the perception of it is such a like you guys said, such a delicate battle. But we talked about like our project that we're working on, not afraid to admit it, like we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that project. Our teams do, and a lot of it just comes from a position that we care. And the couple things went the wrong way for us, out of our control, and like not afraid to say, like I cried in front of our team, so to speak, or my team could sense my emotions with it, because I knew they had put so much into it. And I saw that, and felt bad for us at that point in time. But also being able to throw the other side of it to like my team see me angry. So like I don't know, I feel like I have all the emotions, and that's probably a me personally thing. But
I think that shows though, like I feel like I'd be more concerned if I was working on a team where we were working really hard and they had no emotion, because I would think you don't care. Like if whatever, like, and of course we have to like manage our emotions because they're at work. Like you can't be like throwing things or like crying every day. But like if like I was on a team and like my leader was so passionate about it that he was crying, or that he did get like upset, but I knew we were on the team and we were in it together, like that would feel better to me than if there was just like no emotion and no care.
Yeah.
It's just how hard we work towards our projects and things that we're working on. So
I think it's also just important to remember at the end of the day, we're people. It doesn't matter, men, women, whatever. We're all on the same team, working towards the same goal. And, sometimes the emotions have to come out because we're not robots. We simply just holding in your emotions all the time is not, necessarily a healthy thing to do. And it could even be detrimental to the project because it could affect you in so many possibly negative ways. So I think, here at GBA, especially on a lot of our teams, I'm really thankful that we kind of have the teams where, some of those emotions can show, because, sometimes it can lead to even solutions. Like if we're sensing something is maybe off or whatnot, we talk about it, we communicate, and we work through it to find solutions, whether it be on a design or just how, to handle maybe difficult situations with other teammates or the client. I definitely think that having emotions and having open communication about it is only a positive thing on projects.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, like addressing it. Like, why is that coming out that way, or things like that?
Yeah, I think kind of to what you touched on with that is, emotions are okay. I think that's what we're kind of talking about, but it kind of humanizes people. But I think it also lets people, I think it's a trust thing a little bit, right? So I would say even like on our project team, we have a pretty decent amount of trust, pretty good amount of trust within our team, where it's okay if someone's upset with you or whatever, that they can come show their emotion to you. And then it's like, well, let's figure this out. Right. So I think there's almost kind of that trust factor that comes into like emotions as well.
That makes me think of a story. Like, I walked in to a job site trailer and was talking to a superintendent that I'd known for years. And like, it's like an old friend at this point. He's like second dad to me, like super involved. He actually like moved me into my apartment when I moved to Kansas City. So we have like a really close relationship. And he like was like put his legs up and we were like just like chatting, like two girls, like bad analogy for this podcast. We were just like chatting away, like gossiping. And then two guys from the field walked into the trailer and he like immediately like stiffened up and was like, "What can I help you with?" And I was just, that to me like represents what you were just saying perfectly, because he had like that trust with me. He could show his true self to me, and I wasn't going to judge him. And like, I was excited to engage in like the conversation we were having. But then when two outside subcontractors walked in, he had to like put on a whole new front until they probably could gain that trust throughout the project, and he might present himself in the similar way that he was presenting to me. So
I think, it's that trust, that seeing people are human. We kind of, we're an EOS group or whatever, and like in our EOS meetings, the first thing off the jump is like,
what is EOS?
It's Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Okay.
So it's just like a framework for how you organize and run your company or group. So in there, they have like meeting agenda format, like standard formats or whatever, and the front end of every meeting has what's called like the segue. So you're supposed to start meetings with a segue, and it could be any random topic, but what it's meant to be is it allows everybody to kind of share something about their life or whatever, and kind of humanizes everybody and helps you build that trust with your team, which then allows you to be your true self, have those emotions, in the meeting to make it productive or whatever function you're doing. So I think that's a tool that we have right now to allow people to use their emotions. And again, like, what's the end goal at the end of the day is trying to be our best selves, put the best project forward, operate the best, those kind of things. But it is interesting, like when you don't trust somebody or someone's new, like everybody does it. Like you kind of straighten up, put on a front a little bit, professional gets the term that gets used a lot. So I don't know, I feel like if we could just normalize that a little bit, I think that industry or maybe socially, the world is maybe getting more normal a little bit, but it is so interesting. If you just want to think, when do I work the best, or what's been the most successful projects or most successful whatever you did? It's when you're comfortable with the people you worked with. And so I think just making that more normal, I think helps everybody.
I never thought about it that way, but like reflecting on my own experience, like when I first went on a job site, I tried so hard to act like I knew things. And it was just a constant battle every day of like, I know something about construction. I didn't. I did mechanical engineering, so I knew nothing about the construction side. And then when I did start like building relationships with the people on my team and I was comfortable asking them questions, I learned so much more because I could ask them the things. I didn't have to act like I knew them. I could just ask them and then I knew them. So I think,
I think I'm going to close the loop here a little bit, but there's that perception of emotion, between women and men, and what's a stereotypical emotion or not. But I think if we get to the root of it, it's a little bit because of what we've talked about earlier in this podcast about coming in with a chip on your shoulder or whatever. And like, at the end of the day, to me, it's just normalizing that women and men, like we're both people at the end of the day. And it being more normal that there's more and more women in the industry. I think that's kind of what we're talking about, and like just becoming more comfortable as an industry with the intermixed team. Because like if you walked into elementary school right now, predominantly women were predominantly teachers for a long time. So kind of the flip side of that for our industry. So
I definitely, again, to close the loop on that, I think it takes all sides. It takes men, women, anyone to kind of, get us to the end goal that we want, which is, at the end of the day, normalcy.
Yeah.
It's not, the point of this is not, women want to take over, women want to give us power roles. Like, that is not the end goal. The end goal is to make it normal. And at the end of the day, it is about putting the best projects out there and, doing just a good job at your job.
As a team,
yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you, Brenna and Patrick, for joining us today on the Femme podcast, and thank you all for listening in. We got some awesome insight on advocacy and some really great perspective from both of you, so I really appreciate you guys coming and being so open and honest with us. And on that note, I think we have a special goodbye from Brenna and Patrick.
Yeah, for sure. First, before we get to that, I just wanted to say thank you, McClain, for hosting and having these conversations with us. You're an awesome host, and it was fun being on this. And to sign off, we just want to say rock chalk.
Jayhawk. Thank you, guys.